well. What is going on, beautiful people? It is your host, Conversations with Coach La, Miss Coach LA. How y'all doing this evening? It's a wonderful day here in Boston. Yesterday we had below zero temperatures, and today it felt like summer because it got to the 40s. You guys know you're tuned into the urban heat, and we are radio with a purpose. You guys know what you need to do. You need to tag somebody, let somebody know it's time for Conversations with Coach La. It's time to get on this virtual couch. If you are tuned in through iHeartRadio, thank you so much for listening. To all of the people on YouTube and Facebook and Instagram and all of the places that you decide to tune in from. Thank you, thank you, thank you. I so appreciate you. So tonight we have an awesome conversation. I think it'll be somewhat maybe triggering for some people as well, but this is a beautiful soul. I have had the pleasure of chopping it up with her and getting to know her virtually and through her work, through her books. So we have Genie Rose that is going to be joining us today, and she is a Latinx author. She's an actress. She's a poet. She's a model. I mean, the girl does it all, you know? And she is from Boston, and she's also an educator, and she's actually written two books of poetry. One that's called Deeply Rooted, and another one that is called Sincerely Yours Truly. She also has done spoken word at various venues around Boston. And I just confirmed her tonight that she will be at Po Therapy 3 at Slade's Bar and Grill. So you guys will be able to meet her in person. And she's already sold out of one of her books. So you only will be able to get the second book, from what I understand, Deeply Rooted, or you'll have to go on her website to get her first publication. She also has done various workshops, which I thought was really interesting. And this girl hasn't even stopped there. She's been on Netflix. She's been on Hulu. She's been on Apple TV. And she just has a passion for the work and for arts. And she's an advocate for people using their voice through the arts. So without further ado, I'd like to welcome the beautiful artist, poet, actress, model, Genie Rose. Welcome to Conversations
Hello.
with Coach La.
Hi,
Hello.
Coach Lab. Thank you so much for having me. That
Yeah,
intro was everything. Thank you so much.
you are very welcome, Queen. You are very welcome. I'm super excited to have you here tonight. As you know, I have a love for poetry as well. So meeting a fellow
Yes.
poet and then you finding me because of me just posting my show on social media, the power of social media. Like, we've never met. You saw
Right.
me and you sent a request to come on the show and bring your work. So I feel honored, and that also means that my show is being seen and people are
Yeah.
liking what I'm doing. So that warms my heart, and this has been such a blessing just to make your acquaintance. So we
Oh,
got a
thank you.
lot of dope stuff to talk about tonight. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
told you in advance that you were going to be put on the hot seat just a little bit, right? So
Yes.
question I ask everybody, similar to not loving basketball, but Brown Sugar. I don't know if you ever seen that movie, but she would start all her interviews off and say, when did you fall in love with hip hop? So I got my own question like that, and my question is, what does therapy mean to you?
So therapy means to me going within and opening the can of worms.
Ooh, do tell,
Yes.
do tell, do tell.
So obviously with therapy, you have no choice but to face the mirror, kind of like face your demons is what I call it. And, you have to do a lot of self reflection, self awareness. And definitely therapy has helped me with a lot of coping mechanisms with, how to deal with my personal traumas and things of that sort. And it's not easy going within and
Mm.
realizing for some things it is your fault, you know?
Ooh, did you say fault? Did you say
Yes, I did.
so? Does that mean that there's a certain amount of accountability that comes along with coming to therapy?
1000%.
I just
1000.
was talking to a client earlier today about choices, like, and I made a post earlier that therapy isn't like magic, and I'm not a magician, right? So I can't like get in your brain and fix you, and I don't know any magical spells. You have to do
Right,
the work, right? And it's really
right.
about what you bring, and sometimes people aren't ready. right? Some
Exactly.
sessions are so awkward and people just are quiet, or they come to therapy and they say they don't have anything to talk about. And I'm like, okay, so if you don't have anything to talk about, then it makes me sound and feel like a preacher and I'm talking
Right.
to you versus this being a collaborative effort where there's give and take. So,
Right.
granted, that's part of the process, but that is often very difficult when someone is
Yeah.
not really ready to do the work, but they know they need to do the work.
Yes. And that's such a gray area. Like you know you need the work, but you're just not ready. Oh, that's I've battled with that. Like I've had moments where I want to journal. I have so much to journal and write about, and I'm not there. I can't write it. I can't put it on paper yet. And
Mm,
you just kind of gotta weigh it out.
yeah, yeah. So therapy for you is really about opening up the can of worms, Pandora's box, right?
Right.
It's that moment of truth. That
Yes.
can be scary for people, I imagine.
Horrifying. And you know what I learned? Like trauma, it like your brain blocks a lot of it out.
Mhm.
So
Yes.
going to therapy, you kind of start getting glimpses and little like remembering certain things that happened. And you're like, my brain completely blocked that out for
Yes.
so long
Yes.
until you're in therapy and you're forced to bring it back.
Yeah,
And
and the interesting word of using forced, you know, I try not to make people feel forced because with trauma, you don't want to re-traumatize somebody. So I just,
mm,
want to be mindful of you're not really forced. I always say, unless
that's true.
even if you're court mandated to come to therapy, for instance, because that can feel like a force. We
Mm,
still have the ability to make a choice on what we share, how much
right,
effort we put forth, on what goals we decide to communicate that we want to accomplish in therapy. So
right,
it's always the ball is in your court, right? The therapist can't make you do anything. Just like in life, you can't make people do anything. So
right.
awesome,
That's
awesome, awesome. So I have a segue because we're going to get to my second question that I ask everybody too.
true.
But your books are all about healing, right? So
Yeah.
what I want to sort of do is frame this conversation around what does it mean to heal, right? What does it mean to heal? And in that, I'm hoping that you can shed some light on my second question, which was
Okay.
which is, excuse me, what have your bet on self moments been?
Mm,
So I know we talked a little bit about bet on self moments, but for all of the people who are just maybe listening to my show for the first time, I'm a psychotherapist, I'm a life coach, and this is a manifestation. This show is a manifestation of me wanting to reach the masses and do more, right? So I only can see so many clients and do so much as
right.
a 9 to 5 therapist that I wanted to debunk myths about what it's like to talk to a therapist and also to debunk who and what who goes to therapy and what they look like because people have this idea that only people who are that look crazy, no pun intended, look like something wrong with them, go to therapy. And often they are normal, everyday people that are successful by society standards that you would
Right.
never know have like mental health isn't something that you can always see unless you're really close to a person. You may not even notice that they're
Right.
struggling with mental health. You might just say they're toxic, or you might just start calling them a narcissist, which people like to do. And oftentimes they could just be struggling with a mental health issue. It could be anxiety, it could be a mood disorder, it could be depression. So, bet on self is a mantra, it's a mindset, and it's a lifestyle. And it was inspired by my dad, who passed away 4 years ago. And when I would get discouraged or get down on myself, he would always encourage me to bet on myself and always encourage me that everything that I needed was already in me, that I
Mm,
already was a beautiful person. I was already motivated and I could do whatever I set my mind to do. So I started saying that to myself. And then I said I was going to create a course. And then I got this idea. I was like, well, why don't you just name it Better on Self? And I did. So I have a course that's 8 weeks that's all about personal development and all about building your self-esteem and encouraging people to step out of their comfort zones and to bet on self. So
mm,
it's an epiphany. It's that moment that you say, you know what? If not now, when? If not me, who? I can't
Right.
keep blaming my family. I can't keep blaming my circumstances. If I want it in my life, I got to go make it happen and make and manifest it. So now that I've given you the whole breakdown, and for all the listeners, you have a bet on self moment.
Yes, I do. And honestly, that moment happened for me in December of literally 2022. So like I said, I'm an educator. And last August, I accepted a position as a high school teacher in Boston. And I always thought that's what I wanted. I'm like, I'm gonna be a teacher. I'm gonna be a teacher. Like to me, that was my dream career. And I finally got it. Coach Law, let me tell you, that
But
was not it.
it
That
was
was
not.
not it.
It was not it.
It was not it. And you know, so school started in August, it's very early because it was a charter school. And by the end of September, I knew I had to go.
Wow.
I'm like, oh, I can't be here. I had no work and life balance at all.
Wow.
Like this job consumed my life. I stopped going to the gym. I stopped writing. My anxiety got so bad. And I loved the kids so much, which is why I stayed till December.
Mm.
But my mental health was shot,
Oh wow.
completely
So
right.
we got a lot of people tuning in saying hello. You guys know if you don't accept
Hello.
StreamYard, I can't see your names, but we have a lot of Facebook listeners. Thank you so much for tuning in. If I don't say your name, that's because it just says Facebook user. But I'm a guest that my sister's on here. So hey sis, because you said hey sis, but I don't know. It could be another sis. But hey sis, what's going on, everyone? I wish you would accept StreamYard so I could give you a proper shout out. But I appreciate you tuning in. Go ahead and tag in some more people. And as you guys know, my love language is words of affirmation. So get in the chat and talk. And also hit that love button because it's all about love. It's all about love. Tonight's conversation is all about
Yeah.
love. So hit that heart and let us know if you're feeling what we're talking about. So hey, bestie. Okay, so my sister and my best friends on here. Hey, y'all.
Okay. Hey. Hey guys.
Hey. So a lot of educators, if you're an educator, throw if you're an educator in the chat, if you're brave enough to say you're an educator. I have so much respect for educators because I know it's a hard job. You not only
Yes.
have to teach, you have to be a disciplinarian, you have to be a counselor, you just have
Right.
to be a parent, you have to do a lot as an educator. So I can only imagine how overwhelming that could be for someone
Yes.
to be an educator. It's similar to a
Right.
lot of people don't want to be a therapist, right? You gotta
Right.
love it. You gotta so love it, right?
Yeah.
But I have to practice self-care. So your bet on self moment was leaving?
Leaving. I left. Yeah.
Wow.
I definitely left. Oh my God, it broke my heart. It broke my heart, but I just couldn't. I was crying on my way to work. I was crying leaving work.
Wow.
I was just, I'm just not okay. I'm just not okay. And it was kind of weird because I could feel depression like right here, just creeping up. You know what I mean? Creeping
Wow.
up on me. And I was like, I can't let this happen. So I did what's best for me, and I'm like, hey, and I gave them 4 weeks. I gave them a 4 week notice.
Wow.
Hardest 4 weeks of my life, but I did it. And honestly, when I left, I felt like just pounds of stress and anxiety lift off my shoulders. Yeah.
Anybody else that have a what we call that a jump moment. Steve Harvey had a book and he talked about taking a
Yes.
leap or taking a jump. And then we
Yes.
also have this new term called quietly quitting. So it sounds like over time you were sort of like you already had kind of probably quietly quit before you
Mhm.
gave your official notice. But I
Yeah.
didn't know we shared that in common because 2 years ago I quit a job I had been at for 5 years.
Oh,
And
wow.
I probably wouldn't have left had it not threatened my self-care. But when it threatened my self-care, I resigned. But I remember having anxiety when I hit the submit button because I emailed my resignation letter. Um, that forever will be in my email that I did that on that day. Is which is
Yeah.
coming, the anniversary is coming up. I think, yeah, in March. Um,
Oh,
but it was a knot in my stomach. I will never forget the feeling. Um, I never felt that. Well, I actually felt that one other time when I performed at Slade's. Shout out to Slade's for letting me do Pole Therapy 3 there. But the second time in my life that I ever performed my poetry was at Slade's, and I was ended up being the opening act. And I didn't know I was going to be the opening act. And when I found out, I was so nervous. And I remember that not being in my stomach on that day too. So those are the two times I had that type of anxiety. But I killed that performance. I would say
good.
I did a good job.
Good. That's all that matters.
Yeah. So any other better on self moments for you? Because you got two beautiful books that we're about to talk about.
Right. So yeah, dropping my first book, that was a bet on self moment. Funny story. So my first book is about heartbreak, and I just found myself writing poetry, and I filled up a whole notebook. I'm like, okay, what are we
Mm,
gonna do now?
uh-huh.
I'm like, you know what? Go big or go home. I'm an Aries. I'm gonna go big. So,
That's an Aries. Shout out to the Aries out there.
and yeah, I'm like, okay, I self-published it. And the second Amazon emailed me back like, "Hey, congratulations, your book is published." I'm like, "Okay." I published it. I posted the pictures on Instagram and I
Mhm.
was like, "Hey guys, go check out my book, blah blah blah." Coach Law, I shut my phone off for 4 hours. After
You was too scared to get the responses?
the phone was off. I was like, "What did I just do?" I'm like, "I just exposed my whole life." Like,
Mhm,
I couldn't believe what I did.
mhm,
But like getting after all of that, getting all the feedback and people are like, "Wow, I'm so proud of you. You did it." I was like, "Oh, okay." Like then I kind of felt a little better, but anxiety took over.
mhm.
It
Yeah.
definitely did. It
They
did.
they say if it doesn't scare you, then it's not a big enough goal,
Right. And
right?
that
Like, if
my book is a representation of that.
yes, if it doesn't give you some anxiety, then it's not probably worth it, right?
Right.
To a certain extent. So I know each week people probably wouldn't believe this. Every time I do this show, because I want to do a good job, there's anxiety, right? Because there's a
Yes.
lot going on back here. I might look calm, cool, collected, but there's a lot happening to make the show go. And I'm
Yeah.
a one woman show. I'm the captain of the ship. So your first book, let's talk about it, right? It is
Oh
called
yeah.
Sincerely Yours Truly, and
Yeah.
um, it was her, the one who listened, the one who waited, the one who loved blindly. It was her, the one you left in the dust, the one you didn't value. It was her, the one who got away. Her. That's on
Mm,
the back cover, y'all, of the book,
yes.
right? So tonight's conversation is about what does it mean to heal, and it's the process of making or becoming sound or healthy again. Tending to heal is therapeutic. So when I think about poetry, I think poetry in itself represents healing.
So
Like
much.
it is the sound of being healed. It is therapeutic. So these books, in my opinion, are a representation of your healing.
Yes. Yes, 100%. 100%.
Yes. Yes. So another piece that she wrote, I'm gonna read this two more pieces from this particular book. You guys can definitely go grab it off of her website, and I'll make sure that I put this down here so you guys can find it. So um this one also stood out to me. We've been down this road we've been down this road on too many times. Enough with the lessons. No more giving the benefit of the doubt. No more being naive. The ship has sailed. Time to call it what it is, a situationship.
Mm. Oh, yeah.
Y'all
Yeah.
see her face? She's like, yeah, I'm just reliving this all over again. I'm calling her out big time. She said the book was about
Ooh,
heartache. So anybody who is in the chat right now, if you have gone through a heartbreak and you've used poetry or your journal, say, hey, that's me, because I know I have. I definitely have used
yeah.
my journal, and I will be reading several poems on the 17th that are connected To love, right? To love. That's probably when my
Yeah.
best work comes out. I think about Mary J. Blige. Like I feel like Mary,
Ooh.
she was going through something. Like she wrote some of the best or sang some of the best
Oh
songs.
my God. Yes.
I'm gonna read this one other piece, and that's because she doesn't have any more of these books. This book is sold out.
Yes.
This one's
Yes, it
sold
is.
out. You only can get it on the website. She won't even. I don't even know if she'll have copies on the 17th because she don't have any more. She don't even have any in her possession.
Yeah, I did order. I ordered a batch. They're
Okay.
coming.
All right. So on the 17th, you can get this one. So this one was called Numb, and this stood out to me because we're talking about healing. And I
Right.
picked pieces tonight to sort of go along with the conversation because often when we're going through it, we're numb. Sometimes we
Right.
don't even know we're in pain, and part of healing is to say you're hurting. So this piece is called Numb. There comes a time after the heartache that you're just numb. You can't feel anything. Moments, you just get a few moments. You just get a few good moments. Then it's back to becoming a blank canvas. I deleted you out of my painting. You don't deserve a spot in this beautiful painting. You destroyed it. You filled it with pain and misery, with confusion, with illusion. Now I must start over, back to a blank canvas. I like
Mm,
short, sweet poems like that.
yeah. Oh yeah.
I like short and sweet. Get to the point, baby. So
Right.
you guys are tuned into the Urban Heat. Again, we're a radio with a purpose. This is Conversations with Coach Law. We got the wonderful author, poet, actress, model, Genie Rose, live on the air. And we're talking about her bet on self moments and her books. The one that I just read from was called Sincerely Yours Truly. And we
Yeah.
read a few pieces from that one. And so moving on. The next one you wrote was Deeply Rooted.
Oh, deeply rooted. And deeply rooted was about my own personal like childhood traumas more. The first book was more about like a heartbreak and kind of healing from the heartbreak, but the second book was very personal.
Mhm.
Very, very personal. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So this one made me think about forgiveness. And
Mm,
again, part of healing is not always just about forgiving other people. Sometimes we have to reflect. Like you said earlier, therapy is about a mirror, it's about, accountability, and it's opening up a can of worms. So when
yes.
you think about relationships, your first book was about relationships. And what I know in therapy, that's some of the reasons that bring people to therapy, right? Is a breakup, a divorce. And they open up so much about yourself. That's one place you can't hide. When you get in a relationship, you can try to hide, but eventually you will be exposed.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
we also know from attachment theory that our intimate relationships are the closest to our parental relationships. So
Right.
whatever we didn't get from our parents or learned behaviors, all that stuff shows up when we get a partner.
Yes.
So is there anything that you had to forgive yourself for when
Oh,
you
so
were
much.
this deeply
So
rooted?
much.
Because there's a piece
Um,
called, there's a whole section on forgiveness.
yes, definitely. So actually, my favorite poem in my first book, in Sincerely Yours Truly, is Forgiveness to Self is the last poem in the book. And I write myself an apology letter.
Oh, wow.
Yes, I wrote myself an apology letter for allowing certain things, for ignoring certain red flags. And, because somewhere in the healing, I started to feel guilty. I'm like, oh, this happened because of me. Like, I made this happen. And then eventually I'm like, no, it wasn't my fault. And then I wrote myself an apology letter. But deeply rooted, I came to the realization that I struggle with forgiveness. I struggle with forgiving people because I would rather just cut you off. I'm quick with the block button and the cutting off. Oh, quick.
Okay, okay. Anybody else out there guilty in the chat? Anybody else have a strong cutoff game?
I know I'm
Okay,
not here alone.
okay.
Show some love.
Some love. Hit the heart button if you have some strong cutoff game. I'm guilty of more so of people. I guess I kind of have had it both ways, but I've only had one person really kind of ghost me or like stop
Yeah,
responding. Like when I really think about it, it's only one person, and I got tons of poems about him. Um,
real.
yes, I got tons
Yeah,
of poems.
because but at the end of the day, it's because there's so much unsaid.
Yes,
I came to the realization I don't want to have that difficult conversation or deal with that difficult issue. I would rather be out. You know what? Let's just forget this. Let's just call it a day.
but I was telling someone because a lot of people say that ghosting is toxic, but there
Right.
are a lot of people out there that don't want to have closure or don't need closure and don't want to deal with the pain of saying goodbye. It's much
Yeah.
easier for them to leave. And there's the other people who kind of just want to have things end on a good note. Like they don't want it to
Yeah.
be ugly or, we can't speak. Like, but a lot of people, they have never experienced a healthy separation. Like it always has to go.
Right.
Like it's never like, hey, we got
Yeah.
compatibility issues. This just isn't, gelling the way it should.
But
No
this
hard.
isn't it.
It's not you. It's not
Right.
me. It just really is. We're not compatible. It happens. It happens.
Yeah. Yeah.
That nobody
I
wants to really
personally,
happens.
I personally feel like closure is an illusion.
Mm,
I don't, I don't think it's really real because people are like, oh, like, let's have like a little goodbye. And I'm like, we both know this is gonna end. Why not just rip off the band-aid? Let's just call it what it is.
mhm.
It's hard enough, in my opinion.
Do you think that that's ever a place for growth in that conversation though? Can you find it's almost like exit interviews at a job. Like they ask you questions on why it didn't work, you give them feedback so that you can grow and be better.
Um, yes, but I also feel like during that moment, emotions usually are so high
Mhm.
that you're not receiving whatever is being told to you. Because to me, I'm like, you're attacking me. Don't come at my person. How dare you? I'm gonna take it very personal.
Uh-huh. And
But
and that's
then,
precisely it, right? Is that
right,
can we sit down and have a conversation and receive feedback and not let the emotions get high?
right. So only when like after a little bit of time has passed and I'm like calm and reflecting, is that I'm fully receiving what was being said to me,
Mhm.
in that last conversation. So then I'm like, oh, now I feel bad because I was like reacting off of my emotions, not really listening. So it's like
Uh-huh.
kind of
But
tough.
isn't there some growth in being able to accept a no and accept things not working out, where you don't have to get emotionally charged and cuss people out because they're saying
Yes,
this isn't working for them?
100%. That is growth, actually. Not reacting, not letting your emotions get the best of you is growth. And that's actually where I am right now, currently. Like, I'm trying to work on my anger. And anger is so hard to work on because
She
you can
look
only
like
work
she's
on it
angry, y'all.
when you're angry. Oh, listen, listen, I am a Dominican Latina, okay? It can get spicy over here.
I'm like, wait a minute. What? She said, I'm working on my anger, y'all. She said cutoff game is strong. She's working on her anger. But believe it or not, this is one of the main things that brings people to therapy, which
Right,
brings me to why therapy. Some of the common reasons people come see a therapist you've already named, right? A breakup, addiction, substance use, whatever it may be. Being able to cope with anxiety and stress. Anger
right.
management is a big one, right? Phobias, and the biggest one I think is relationship issues. I have
Right,
so many people that the catalyst that brought them to therapy was a breakup, a divorce, or their
right.
relationship isn't working, or they're afraid of losing their relationship. So there's lots of research that says your quality of your relationships is one of the huge indicators of a AKA happy life. So
Mm,
if you look at your relationships and you wonder why you're not necessarily happy, or you wonder why you're stressed, or you wonder why you're depressed, if you look at who you're surrounded by and who you engage with on a regular basis, 9 times out of 10 you can pinpoint that your relationships, be that your job relationships,
yeah.
intimate relationships, friendships, family, is part of the reason. Now, of course, there's other things. Some people have perfect lives and they still have depression. And when I
Right.
say perfect, meaning like there's nothing that they really can pinpoint that's a problem for them. But we know that there are lots of people. I think about 8% of Americans suffer with depression,
Mm,
right? So, I mean, that sounds like a small number, but that's still a large amount of people that have some level of
right.
depression. So,
Right.
um, do you think when you were going through your breakup that you were dealing with depression?
100%.
How do you know?
I didn't have energy to really do much. I was okay with just laying in bed writing poetry all day. You know, people would ask me to go out, let's go hang out, let's go out to eat, and I barely had an appetite. Um, I just wasn't me.
Mhm,
It wasn't me, you know. I just knew I wasn't myself, and it kind of consumed me.
mhm. Yeah.
Right.
Was that when you first sought therapy? Was that the catalyst that you said, "Hey, I need help," or was it a different moment?
So I've been in and out of therapy since middle school, I want to say.
Mhm.
Yeah, I used to go see my school counselor back in the day, and then but that was one of the moments that I did reach out to a therapist. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty common. The other
Yeah.
thing that is really interesting, and I think that this may have something to do with the fact that men don't always know that they're depressed or go seek support, but
Mm,
a larger percent of women um, are dealing with depression than men. And I think that's one, men are kind of cultivated to sort of not deal with emotions. And even
yes.
if it were symptoms of depression, I don't know that a lot of men would even recognize the symptom as depression. It might be stress, irritability, um, isolation, not wanting to be bothered. I don't know if they necessarily increase in drug use and alcohol, maybe even increases in sex. I always tell a lot of women when they come and maybe there's cheating and stuff involved, that sometimes the cheating is a manifestation also of a man being depressed. It may not necessarily be
Mm,
that he just is doing it to do it to get back at you. He might not be in a good place, and sex and that becomes
yeah.
an outlet. So a lot of things we don't think about, um reflects depression reflects differently in men. Sorry,
Man.
I know,
Yeah.
tongue twisted there. So, if anybody else in the chat, if that resonates, because I know a lot of people have definitely had a situation where um they've been depressed. I think it's more common than most of us know. So,
Right.
we also as women tend to have, stronger social networks. So that sometimes helps us too, because even if we do get depressed, we can tap into our friends, or we have activities, we have certain things to sort of pull us out of it, or we write. Like, you're the second woman that I know that when they broke up or was going through it wrote a book. My other really good friend, Vic Breedy, same thing. She ended
Yeah.
up writing a book to deal with being going through her divorce. So it seems like that's an outlet for us.
Yeah. It's funny because when I was young, I was always gifted journals, always. So like, I never and I started acting at the age of 12 and I always used to write monologues, but I never in my brain I never knew that that was poetry.
Mm,
In my actor brain, I'm like, "Oh, it's a monologue. This is how I feel. My
mm.
character right now."
And there's a such thing called I know my event is called therapy, but poetry therapy. And
Yeah.
it's basically like a manifestation, I think, of narrative therapy, um,
Mm.
as well. And it's being able to express your feelings, um, and to pull yourself away from the problem. So when you think about, whatever you're going through, like you're not the heartbreak, you're experiencing the heartbreak. Like,
Right.
therefore, if you're experiencing it, it's not of you, then you can solve it because you're not the problem. Sometimes when people actually think they're the problem, it turns into shame, right?
Right.
When it
Right.
turns into shame, it feels hopeless. Feels like it'll
Right.
never go away.
Yeah, there's a quote that helps me a lot with that, and it's we are spiritual beings having a human experience.
Ooh, I love that. I love
Yeah, that quote helps me a lot.
Yeah, I like that. I actually heard that too. I don't know where I heard it at, but I've heard that as well, and it definitely stood out to me. So,
Right.
one of the things I also came across was the percent of adults, that were experiencing some level of worry, nervousness, or anxiety, which is over 10% of us. So, it's a
Wow.
lot of us that are going through it, right? And I think one of the reasons why I wanted to even do this show and talk about it is to normalize that most people are not okay. I think we're
Mm.
conditioned to say we're okay and I'm fine, but I think a lot of people are really struggling with lifing. What do you think?
Yeah,
That
I agree. I 100% agree, and I'm going to blame society.
Talk about it. Talk about
I'm
it.
blaming society because we are in this hustling mentality and this society that's just go, 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 and you know what I mean, day in and day out in this job, and people it's not normal to prioritize ourselves and our mental health. Like that's very unheard of for the most part. And then, and even kids in school, like even missing school becomes a problem, missing work becomes a problem, and then because money runs the world, right? And so I just feel like being stuck in that mentality, like I can't take a day off, I can't get checked out, I can't just take a self-care day. Like it's always going to be an issue until you prioritize your mental health. It's always
And
going to be an issue.
even with that, at times people don't want to listen until you're in the hospital.
Too
Until
late.
at this point, the job has no choice because you can't come back to work. And sometimes, when you start seeing your staff or you start seeing people quietly quit, it happens slowly. Like there's signs, right? They're calling
Yes.
out, they're irritable, maybe they're not getting work done. Maybe
Right.
your partner is like coming home and not really talking much. Text messages stop being returned. I think a lot of times we internalize these things that it's us, and sometimes people just really are struggling with life.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why I quit being a teacher because I'm like, these kids are with me. This is like a school is a child's second home. And I'm like, here I am. I can't give the best of me because I'm not happy here.
Mhm.
And then this is bleeding onto my kids and my students. And I don't they don't deserve that. They deserve the best of me. So
I
I
tell people
get that.
that to do this work, I have to constantly pour into myself, especially in the
Yes.
wintertime. I'm a summer person. Like I like the sun,
Same.
I like the heat.
Same.
So this cold weather in itself makes me really not be energetic. Like I just want to be home
Yeah.
in a blanket and I don't even want to come outside. That's just the truth. It's
Yeah.
not even
And the sun is gone at like 3 p.m.
right. But come summertime, I'm outside. Like I want to be outside.
Yes.
My mood is different. So I don't know about other people, but winter and seasons definitely impact my mood. But if you have depression, it's even more heavy, you know, um,
Yes.
because now it's cold and different activities don't feel that great anymore. So what I
Right.
also found that was really interesting, and tying this back to um, you writing and saying what you said earlier, is the amount of people who are going to be seen because of their mental health disorders. Like over 50 million people are noted and I believe it was 2020 to have gone. So I think one, the pandemic was going on around that time.
Right.
And I didn't you
Yeah.
write your book during that time as well? Didn't one of these books
I
come out in
sure
the
did.
middle of that? So
Yep.
tell us about Deeply Rooted and how that happened. And I want to bring it back to this forgiveness topic because we kind of like we talked about it and we went too fast away from it.
Yes. So my first book was written during the pandemic. So yeah, so Sincerely Yours Truly, it got published in October. But I started writing in May. So literally like a month or two after, the shutdown. And it was beautiful because that was the first time that I got to like sit down and like I had to sit with those feelings. Because I'm usually when I go through any type of heartbreak or anything like that, I start working a lot. I'm always outside with my friends. I keep myself very busy and occupied. But for the first time, I couldn't. I'm stuck in the house. I have no choice but to sit with this and feel it fully 100%. And that's how the book was kind of like born, honestly. So there was
Yeah.
a blessing in that and sitting with it.
It's called uh Be Still
Yes.
and
Yeah.
learning how to sit in your emotions and sit in the discomfort so that
Right.
way you can actually heal. Because that's
And
what we're
it's
talking
so
about,
fun.
right? It's like we want the pain to go away. We find ways to numb it. We find
Ah,
ways to ignore
yes.
it. I feel like the Solange song, Cranes in the Sky. You know that
Oh,
song?
cranes of the sky.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
But like you try to
Yeah.
do all of these things to just not deal with the fact that you're hurting,
It
right? And
hurt.
for those that are listening, um, just being able to even say, this hurts and I'm in pain is often hard because our tendency at times to say, I don't care, I'm fine,
Right.
and just move on. Cut people off, move forward with your life. I don't care.
Yep.
Yep,
Yep.
I can get somebody else, especially with heartbreak. I'll just get a new one. It didn't matter.
Right.
But I think sometimes being able to actually pause and closure doesn't always have to be with the other person. Closure
Right.
can be
Right.
processing the relationship and processing what happened and what you want to take away from it. That's going to help you heal. That's going to help you be a better partner in the future. It may be a
Right.
decision to pause and not be a perpetual dater or relationship person. Like, I'm just going to take a minute and reflect on me and make
Yeah.
sure that I'm good. Or even listen to some of the feedback that could have made the person break up with you. Because, like you
Yeah.
said, sometimes it is your fault.
100%. 100%. And me, like, I just felt like all that was like a huge reflection period for me. And there was so much growth because that's where I came to the realization, like, I did have some faults. I did have to change certain things or look at, like, I needed a different perspective, is what I needed on relationships.
Mm,
And my book, I wrote my book for me. Like, I needed it. This was for nobody else. That book was for me because I needed some outlet, and writing was my outlet for that.
right,
Yep.
right. You know, I I'm not gonna read any of my poetry tonight, but this piece that you wrote on forgiveness, you gonna read it?
Yes. Yes, yes.
Okay.
So my second book, Deeply Rooted, I wrote Learning Forgiveness. I don't understand how one of the most valuable keys to life is the hardest to master. Forgiveness. We are creatures of habit. We are sinners, humans, full of mistakes from the moment we are born. Yet forgiving one another seems to be impossible. Must every action have a consequence? Why can't I make a mistake and not fear what will happen next? Is it possible to mess up and have someone sit you down and talk to you like a human being? Explain to you why that is deemed as bad or wrong. I get it. You must teach people. But why must it be in such a harsh and heartless manner? Because people take advantage of you if you are too nice. Te cogen de pendeja, my Dominican mother says. Projection of their fear and insecurities, abandonment to teach you a lesson, all I learned was that I don't need them. And with that comes growth. And with that growth comes forgiveness.
Mm. Yes, yes, yes. So,
Thank you.
I mean, I'm always encouraging my clients to write, a technique of, and I put it up here, of using poetry and poetry therapy. And it's the use of
Mm,
language and symbols, and it's about storytelling. And often
yes.
we need to change the narrative and change the story that we have either been taught or what we've created in our head that doesn't move us forward. We can get really stuck. So I
Right.
think poetry is a great way of sort of getting it all out. I also encourage my clients to do what I call a brain dump, and which allows you to get everything out, or it's called a worry journal, right? Where you write out all your
Mm,
worries. Do that before you go to bed. 2 or 3 hours before you go to bed, you write out all of your worries to get it out of your head so that you can actually not go to bed with all of that on your mind. And I
that's
refer to
really
journaling. Thank you. I refer to
yeah.
journaling as your mental massage. So you don't have to
Mm,
do it every single day and make it a chore and make it an obligation. But whenever you are feeling like heavy and that there's a lot on your mind, you can give yourself a mental massage by writing, right? And just get it
yeah.
out. Like, let your brain be soothed by the pen. 8-minute brain dumps. Just write everything that's on your mind, get it out. Believe me, I know some people, if you've never tried it, it will be refreshing and you can take a deep breath. You'll be like, whoo, oh,
Yes. It feels good. Yeah, like I love to journal right before bed because it's like I get to journal on what happened during the day, what did I feel, what did I learn, and it's just out there. And then there's moments when I feel really, really heavy that I just write and write and write, and I fill up like 5 to 6 pages, and I'm just dumping everything out. Like I just have to get it out, and it's the best thing
yeah,
to do.
yes, definitely. So what's next for Jenny Rose?
Ooh, what's next? So I want to start kind of like a girls group. I'm still debating if like we should do like adults and young women or just young women, just adults. But I want to create like a women's group or girls group where, we talk about our feelings and we create a safe space where we write, we journal, we have different topics weekly or bi-weekly.
Mhm.
And I really just I feel like there needs to be I'm longing for like a strong sense of community right now.
Mm.
So I really want to create something like
Yeah.
that.
Now, I when I was on your YouTube channel, I saw you did some virtual poetry. Um,
Yeah.
it 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 seemed like it was a few years ago, but it was well attended. Have you thought about bringing that back?
So that was during the pandemic. During the pandemic, I brought together a whole bunch of talented, amazing poets from, well, I wanted to say Massachusetts, but I had people there from Atlanta, from LA, from everywhere. Um, and I've tried to bring it back, but it's been so hard now that people are working again, back in school. Life kind of picked back up.
Mhm.
But during the pandemic, oh my gosh, that was a lifesaver. I
Yeah.
look forward to it every week.
Yes. We did
Yeah.
something similar once a month called, it's called it's called verbalizations. But during the
Ooh.
pandemic, I came up with a name and he kinda loved it. It was a joke. I was like, "This is like virtualization," and we ended up
Oh,
changing it to, virtualization instead of verbalization. So,
I love
it definitely, the pandemic, I think we all got really creative so that we could stay connected.
yeah.
But I did get a chance to see that, and I said, "Wow, this is really cool," and I saw all the people popping in, I was like, "Wow." I was like, "Yeah, a lot of people on here."
Yeah, it was
They
awesome. It
liked
was so awesome.
beautiful to watch. Beautiful to
Yeah.
watch. So,
Oh, thank
yeah, it was really really, really great. So you wanna start a girls group.
yes.
Any more books coming?
Mm. I feel like God is preparing me for something. I want to sit on it because I kind of wrote two books back to back. And I feel like I'm the type of person, I hit a goal and I'm just on to the next. I don't fully get to embrace it and celebrate it. But my third book, I don't think is gonna be poetry. I want to
Okay.
challenge myself as a writer. Yeah, I want to challenge myself as a writer, and I want to write kind of, I don't want to say a memoir, but like maybe like a short story, maybe about my life or a certain part of my life.
Okay.
And yeah, you know,
So
make it bilingual to speak Spanish and English. So
okay.
incorporate. Yeah.
So the next book is going to be something steamy. Think you're gonna write a love story? What do you think you're gonna write about?
Oof, I don't honestly, I have no idea yet. I haven't thought about it. Any little idea that comes up though, I do like write it down, but I don't have nothing like concrete set yet.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm just waiting. But before I get into the writing, I'm currently taking a life coaching course.
Okay.
Yes. I'm trying to, well, I'm gonna finish that before the summer this year.
Is that tied into you creating your girls group?
Yes, I want to incorporate everything that I learned in my life coaching course. I want to incorporate that with the girls group. Yes.
Dope. So, little secret, I had before I became Coach Law, your favorite around the way therapist, I had
Yeah.
a girls group. I did.
No.
So I was a foster parent and I only took teenage girls between the ages of 14 to 22. Like a lot of them had aged out, but they still were getting support. And it was a
Okay.
program called Pathways here that I would get students. They were like students, college students, but they were formerly in the custody of the state and decided to sign themselves back in. So anyway,
Okay.
I ended up creating a program for girls back then called Rock Your Life. Ironically, now my company abbreviated is We Rock Lives, but Rock Your Life was my girls life coaching program. And the idea
Wow.
was to help young women challenge themselves to see their worth. So it was like real life options that challenge you to know your worth was the whole idea. So
I
if
love that.
it was an amazing program. It was at a couple different high schools and community centers and I did it for a few years and then I had to get a real job, right? I got a real
Mhm.
job and I was still trying to run it and I put it on the shelf. So it's very much needed. I know there's a lot of girls programs, but I recently made a post on my Instagram and it said, you know what, the market could be saturated, but they don't have a you. So there's never going to be enough programming because there's such a huge demand. So when you think there's all these programs, they only can take so many kids and then they're full.
Right.
So definitely go for it. It was a very rewarding time in my life and it led to me doing all that I do now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh,
It was
that's so beautiful. Thank you for that. That just gave me the courage, and now I'm like,
yeah,
oh, we gotta get this moving fast.
and the thing is I didn't know anything then. Like I wasn't a therapist. I had none of the credentials that I have now. I just was a foster parent and I had
Yeah.
a background in financial services and banking and I was a professional, but I wasn't a life coach or anything like that. I just had experience being a parent and being a mentor, and I use that
Yeah.
to
And
help them.
if I learned anything from being a high school teacher is that I love mentoring and I love connecting with the youth, and I don't know, like I just understand them and see them as humans, and like they have their own thoughts and feelings and they just want to be heard,
They
you know,
do.
and and I got so close to my students, like close, like some of them text me till this day, and like that really warms my heart, and I'm like, wow, I want to create a program or like, be able to create a safe space for them.
Yeah, yeah. I definitely enjoyed it. It was a great experience.
I
Um,
love that.
yeah, and I still communicate with a lot of the girls that were in the program. They're like my Facebook friends,
Good.
things like that. So
I love
really,
that.
in that time that I did it, I provided a safe space, Of course, people still make their choices and it.
Yeah.
But I think in that time, I helped a lot of young women be safe and do things differently in that moment in their life. So that makes me feel really proud. So
I
yeah.
love that. That's beautiful.
Yeah, Coach Law been around for a long time, y'all, very long time.
I love
I
it.
look young, but I've been around for a long time. Been around. So we are like 5 minutes before the show closes out. I want to do some shout outs because we have a lot of people in the chat. Rosie, thank you
Yes.
for joining, Miss Rosie. I appreciate you. Farnessa, Danielle, thank you, thank you, thank you. All the Facebook users. There's so much Facebook users. I don't know everybody's name, but y'all Facebook is just representing tonight. They have the most people in the
Yes.
chat. Shout out to the people in that are listening through iHeartRadio and also those that are tuned in through YouTube. You are so appreciated. So tonight we've been talking to Genie Rose. We've been talking about poetry. We've been talking about healing, and we've been talking about how you can move forward with your journey, right, of growth and self-discovery. She used poetry as her means, but there's all therapy, but there's always different avenues, and most of it is really about accountability. It's really about making a decision and deciding, hey, this is bothering me and I'm in pain and I want support and I need help. So, in closing, what are some of the things you want people to take away? Like, what were some of your lessons in dealing with heartbreak and moving forward?
Yeah, well, like you said, taking accountability, understanding and admitting like I'm hurt, I'm going through it right now, that's okay. What are healthy coping mechanisms or that I can get from anywhere or anyone to help me heal in a proper way, without turning to, the drugs, the alcohol, all the easy stuff, because it's very easy to go run to that. It's hard to sit in the discomfort and heal and deal with it and really feel what you're feeling,
Mhm.
So I'ma say take the road less traveled, get to know yourself, understand yourself, take accountability and grow from your experiences, grow through it. That's what I'm gonna say, grow through it.
Absolutely. And when you say that, I think about, I said this on a previous show. If you've ever worked out or had a personal trainer, you know
Mm,
that you get pushed. And
yes.
as your body gets stronger and as you learn different exercises, there's some discomfort in being able to get stronger. It's not,
Yes.
it doesn't often feel good. I guess I need to meet somebody that's like, oh, this feels so good. But most people are gonna tell
No.
you, like, as you your body gets used to that exercise, most trainers will push you with more reps
Right,
or more weight, right?
right.
Longer
It's
distance.
worth it.
And
Yeah,
it's
but it's worth it at the end.
right. It's also like every time you go through the fire, it's not to burn you. Sometimes it's to blow you into a
Right.
beautiful piece of glass,
I
right? So
agree.
everything that feels uncomfortable isn't always bad.
Right.
Sometimes that's growth. You can't grow inside your comfort zone. You grow outside of your comfort zone. So keep challenging yourself to understand that it's okay for things not to work out. It's okay to make mistakes. I think in one of your poems, you talked about being human and being able to make mistakes.
Right.
It's an affirmation that I love, and it goes like this: I am human, therefore I make mistakes. I can choose to see them as lessons.
Oof, I love that. Yes. We are human. Make mistakes and learn
Yes,
from them.
yes, yes. You are not a you do not have to allow them to hinder you from moving forward. Often they are your biggest opportunities can come disguised as bad news.
Very true.
Very
Very true. I agree. Because
true.
if it wasn't for this heartbreak, I wouldn't have had my book.
See?
Look
See
at
how you
that.
just flipped that? That's what I'm talking about. That's an example of reframing everybody.
I love it.
So, Jenny Rose, I appreciate you for coming on and sharing your light and sharing your gift and sharing your books with me. I can't wait for the people to see you perform live at Pole Therapy, which is coming up on the 17th, right here at
Yay.
Steve's Bar and Grill in Boston. You've been listening to the Urban Heat, 98.1 FM. My name is Coach La. I'm your favorite around the way therapist. I come on every Sunday from 10 until 11. And tomorrow morning, you can tune into the Morning Cafe. Make sure you haven't done so already, that you go download the iHeartRadio app so that you can listen every single week, 24/7 to the Urban Heat. We are so excited that you continue to support us. Miss Genie Rose, once again, thank you so much for being a guest this
Thank
evening.
you.
You have been
Thank you so
amazing.
much.
That you will come back again real soon.
Yes.
Have
Yes.
a
Thank you
beautiful
so much, Priscilla.
good night, everyone. Until next time, you guys know what to do. Continue to have those amazing conversations and keep on stepping out of your comfort zones. See you next week, everyone. Good night.
Good night. Bye bye.
That's all I need.